Diplomatic Tradecraft is the first practical diplomacy textbook prepared by the Washington International Diplomatic Academy and published by Cambridge University Press. One of the chapters focuses on diplomatic communication, and this video will show you what is known as a diplomatic démarche. A diplomatic démarche is a request or demand from one government to another. It's usually delivered in person by the ambassador or another embassy official from the sending country to the Minister of Foreign Affairs or another government official from the receiving country. Two former US ambassadors who are instructors at our academy and contributors to the book will simulate delivering a démarche. Ambassador Janice Jacobs will act as the Canadian Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Ambassador Charles Ray will play the part of the US Ambassador to Canada. Before we begin, let's answer a couple of questions about delivering a démarche.
A démarche begins with instructions sent from Washington to an embassy abroad, and it will request the embassy to make an approach to the host government. That approach is called a démarche, and it can be used to request something, to inform the host government, or persuade them, or to object if certain policies or actions appear to be unacceptable. An example would be each year at the UN General Assembly, UNGA, we send out numerous démarches to our embassies, asking them to raise certain issues or points that we agree with or that we are going to make with during the UN, hoping to get their support. Another example would be in a country where American citizens who are imprisoned are being mistreated, sometimes even tortured, and low-level approaches to the host government have not really been successful in ending this, and so Washington sends instructions to the ambassador to go to the foreign minister and to make quite clear that we need to keep, or that the government needs to keep U.S. citizen detainees safe and away from harm.
When it's received at the embassy, the first thing you do is try and figure out who in the government you should approach, unless you are told in the démarche to go to a specific person. Then you arrange an appointment through the foreign ministry, most times, sometimes directly to other ministries, and sometimes directly to the head of state. Arrange transportation, assign a note taker to ensure that there's an accurate accounting of what happened in the meeting, and then you go to the appointed place at the appointed time, and you deliver your message. Essentially, now it varies a little from country to country. In some countries, it's a very formal process where you go to the foreign ministry, they arrange the appropriate appointments, and I mean, I have even actually been met at the front of the foreign ministry by officials in livery who do the formal escorting you to a room. In other cases, it can actually be quite informal. When I was ambassador to Cambodia, I delivered most of my démarches directly to the prime minister in his living room in the house he lived in, which is around the corner from my residence, and there would only be him, his secretary, me, and my note taker in the room, and he would notify the foreign ministry the following day that we had a meeting. So, you know, that can vary, but in essence, it's you get the message, you get the instructions from Washington to deliver, you put in place the mechanics to be able to do it effectively, and you do it.
The U.S. ambassador is going to be approaching the Canadian foreign minister to seek military assistance for a particular operation, and the foreign minister will agree to look into it, but of course we'll have to discuss within her government about how to respond to the request. Mr. Ambassador. How very nice to see you
Madam
again.
Minister, thank you for
Please
seeing
have
me.
a seat. So I fear that our Canadian spring has produced snow today. I'm very sorry about that.
That's okay, ma'am. It still beats the London winter.
Well, yes. I remember it was just about a year ago that my Prime Minister welcomed your President to Canada, and they recommitted to the roadmap that our two countries have developed on how we are going to work together to solve today's many challenges. And I know that you and I as well have been working diligently to implement those plans.
I echo your feelings. I think we've done a lot, and of course, the problems that we face grow day by day, and that's why I'm here today to talk about one that is a growing problem that I think affects all of us to varying degrees over time, and that's the Houthi rebel attacks on commercial shipping that's going on right now. That is really having a negative impact on the global economy. That's only going to get worse with 10% of global commerce and 40% of Asia-Europe trade going through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. It's having a real negative impact on downstream pricing. They're going up, and it's causing delays in supply chains. And so, in the spirit of U.S.-Canada cooperation, first of all, I'd like to express our appreciation for the support that Canada has given to the U.S.-led coalition to deal with this issue. The three planning support officers that were sent are a godsend, and we do appreciate that. And we understand that there are limits on what Canada can do in terms of projecting naval power. But we would like to ask if Canada could consider perhaps providing 2 frigates to our task force in the region to provide screening support for the aircraft carriers from the U.S. and U.K. that are conducting strikes. This would allow some of our surface combat vessels to be redeployed to places like the Persian Gulf, where we hope to be able to thwart any actions by Iran to further destabilize the position there. And it would be another signal of the international community's opposition to what these people are doing now. And also, if we would appreciate any help that Canada can give in terms of reaching out to other countries to get their support, whether military, diplomatic, or economic, to building an international, a global opposition to these illegal acts that are taking place now.
I appreciate that request, and I certainly understand the problems that are being caused by the attacks by the Houthi rebels. Canada has long participated in the Combined Maritime Forces, which, as you know, is a U.S.-led naval coalition that serves in various task forces and covers an area, I think, of over 3 million square miles. And we have deployed personnel to participate in all of those combined task forces. We have about 25 armed forces personnel deployed right now, and as you mentioned, we took 3 of those from one of the task forces and sent them over to help with your efforts to protect the ships trying to transit through the Suez Canal. I believe you call your operation Operation Prosperity Guardian, which is actually a nice name because this really is needed to protect the world's prosperity. Canada has deployed personnel and ships under our own operation that we call Operation Artemis, and that is something that we use to fill those positions and to deploy material when necessary. And it is not uncommon for us to deploy ships under Operation Artemis, so it would not be unusual for us to provide a vessel to your operation. And I am going to raise your request with both the Prime Minister and Defense Minister. In fact, I think we'll ask very specifically if Canada can provide a frigate to join the other navies that are participating. And I might also look into the possibility of whether we can provide a reconnaissance aircraft to help patrol the waters around the Suez Canal. With just 12 frigates that are constantly deployed and being used in joint exercises, engagements, visits to port calls, it may be very difficult for us to provide two. I will ask, but I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out not to be feasible given our other security interests and concerns. As you know, we also participate in NATO's Maritime Command and other allied projects as well. So I will try, but I can't promise on that. I'm pretty sure that the defense minister is going to want more information before a decision can be made. We'll need to know, for example, how long you would need the ship deployed, and we would have to look at our other obligations that we have under the Combined Maritime Forces, NATO, joint exercises, and see if it was possible. And also, we would want a good idea of how our frigate is going to fit in with the other navies that are currently participating. But I can assure you that Canada, as does the U.S., maintains a strong interest in keeping open very vital international waterways and shipping channels. And so we are going to give this request very serious consideration. Now, as far as asking other countries to encourage them to join Operation Prosperity Guardian, we're happy to do that. I understand there are already 20 countries participating, but we can add to that number, and Canada would be very happy to help with that. There has also been a suggestion that additional political and economic sanctions be brought to bear to put pressure on the Houthis. And I can tell you that Canada's position on that is to step up pressures on Iran, the benefactor of the Houthi rebels. We would be very opposed to any measures that further impoverish the people of Yemen.
Well, thank you very much. I fully understand Canada's situation. At this point, we're all stretched very thin, but we appreciate anything that you can do. And as for the specific details, I'll make available my naval attaché and the defense attaché, the senior defense attaché, for any questions that your defense ministry would have.
All right, and thank you for that. And if I may take advantage of your presence here today, I'd like to raise something totally unrelated, but very important to Canada. And that is the rising number of undocumented migrants crossing from the U.S. into Canada. I know that the U.S. Faces a larger problem than we do on your southern border. And we did see a drop in the number of migrants crossing after the U.S. and Canada agreed that migrants had to seek asylum in the first country they entered. But unfortunately, even though we saw a drop in the beginning, the numbers are starting to rise again. We had thousands and thousands come across in 2023. And my request to you would be if you could please remind your border authorities when they are processing the migrants to remind them that they have to make their request, their asylum request, in the U.S. If they try to cross into Canada, they will be returned. And this will go a long way to help our very beleaguered border authorities. And I think it will also end this practice of shopping around, if you will, for the best benefits.
I will certainly send that information back to Washington as soon as possible. I couldn't agree with you more. Unfortunately, as you might well imagine, the magnitude of the problem on the southern border has people's attention diverted, and I think this would be a good way to remind them that we have two borders, not just one. So I will rest assured that I will be right on that.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you for
And
your
I
visit
look forward to
today.
another meeting
Yes, and I look forward to
on a
our
more pleasant topic, hopefully.
Well, yes, and I'll have a response to you as soon as we can. And I always appreciate working with you and your embassy team